Hey, welcome back to Inside Update, everyone. And hey, Mark, how you doing today?
Hello, Connor. I'm doing okay. I have been writing furiously all morning from every place imaginable. And front seat of my car, now in my kitchen. It just, balancing home, kids and home life and work. It's always a challenge, but I've cranking away today, so I'm on a roll.
Nice. Well, that's good. I mean, it's not like you're, oh, how do I even put this? You're doing such good work that if it has to happen in your car, so be it. That's great.
I
It works.
you'd be amazed at the things that I have done in the car when it comes to this job. I've interviewed people from the car because you just have to. You have so many places to be, and part of my job and the way I see my job is like this is my job. It's not the person I'm interviewing. It's not their job to be interviewed. It's my
Mm.
job to interview them. So whatever their schedule is, whenever they can fit me in, I'm gonna make it work because it's my job to be there. So
You got to
uh,
do what you got to do.
yeah,
That's good. And yeah, I mean, that's how you get the stories, right? I mean, I'm always amazed when I hear people being like, yeah, it's a hard end at five in journalism. I'm like, you can't have a hard end at five in journalism. You're missing, not only are you missing out on opportunities, but you're probably not really giving the service that you need to the people on the other side of that phone line either.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, I get calls and texts 8:30, 9:30 at night. I don't answer them a lot, but you know,
well, I mean, I remember when we did we were in the middle of that multiple series on the family court stuff. I mean, I was getting calls at 1 in the morning, people just reaching out from across the country saying, hey, someone's writing about this topic. I need to get them on the phone. That was a little bit of a trip there for a few minutes.
yeah, and just word to everybody. If it's 9:30 at night, I'm asleep. So
Yeah. Yeah, leave a message. He'll get back to you in the morning. He will get back to you. Great communicator. That actually might be so what I was hoping to do, this is just me and you today, right?
yeah,
We're not gonna have everyone, and partially that's because we published an investigation, kind of Trisha's last piece with Inside Investigator about Peter Filardi. It's about horror movies and creating a community in Connecticut. It's a really great piece. I want to talk about your investigation from the week before, called 66 Kilos. And I guess let's continue this conversation about journalism, though, before we get into that, because I'll give you some background about why this is on my mind right now. And partially it's because I got home at 2:30 in the morning last night from a conference in Arizona. And I was out there to connect with people about potential grant opportunities, right? We're a nonprofit. That's part of how we survive and thrive. And it was interesting because I was also connecting with people who were interested in journalism. They think it's important and they want to create something like what we're doing, right? A newsroom that provides investigative journalism for a state that has lost a lot of news coverage. And I did have a lot of amazing conversations, but I also had a few conversations that raised some red flags for me. And it made me think that maybe it would be helpful to talk about our journalism generally, not just the investigations themselves. And one of the conversations I had specifically was someone who was very excited about the possibility of starting a newsroom. And he says, that sounds amazing. If I created a newsroom, I could use it to push my ideas. And it was the kind of this awkward pause. And I, kindly said, hey, me and you we're probably not a good fit to work together. But I pushed it a little bit further because this is something that's really important to me. This is me and you could be doing other things with our time other than, me and you are business partners in this nonprofit entity here. And we could be doing other things, but we genuinely care about good journalism. And I just it was really concerning to me that someone would want to create a newsroom for that reason. And I guess maybe we could talk about scrutiny of news and why it's so important, why Inside Investigator does not take that approach. But good journalism itself is something that you exemplify. You do really great work, and as I genuinely understand, not every there's no such thing as an unbiased human, but a good journalist isn't there to push an agenda unless you're really pulling the wool over my eyes.
Well, I hope I'm good. I hope I do a good job. I actually I look at the other reporters out there in Connecticut and aspire to be like to do that well, So I always just kind of I always feel like I'm climbing up the ladder trying to be better and do a better job each time. That being said, going back to the guy that you met who, wanted to start a newsroom to push his ideas, I mean, just write an op-ed, save yourself the trouble. And I can guarantee you, your ideas are probably not new, are definitely not new. They're not. Everybody's heard it before, everybody's seen it before. There's 8 billion people on the planet, they've all got ideas. They're not all going to start newsrooms. It's pointless. Um, so I understand. I understand that there you can start a newsroom to focus on particular things. If you feel like you can carve out that kind of niche, that's fine. People there's blogs on technology and all sorts of different things. But if you're just doing it to push your ideas, then you're going to have a tough time because it's just going to get boring and it's going to get repetitive, and you don't have that many ideas, and they're probably not as good as you think. Um, and when it comes to, I know you talked about bias and opinions and things like that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just a function of burnout. The sad thing is, I've only been doing this like 8 years. I can't remember now, but like 8 years, but we do a lot of writing. Um, and I just don't have any opinions or ideas anymore. Like, at least I don't feel like I do, because what's the point? Um, it's just give me a story, like I don't need to think one way or another about it. I just need to think it's a good story. It's an interesting story. If it's an angle or something that I haven't heard about, when I spend 8 hours a day at least focused on Connecticut news and landscape, I figure if I haven't heard about it, then there's probably a lot of people who haven't heard about it. So to me, that's what makes it good is, be interesting.
Mm,
Try to find new, stuff that's new. Try to find stuff that's um, kind of connect with the people. That's why I love our tip line, because there's you know obviously there's a lot of talk about the media landscape shifting since the advent of the internet and social media and everything like that, and it's been good. It's a double-edged sword. A lot of things have changed, but one thing that's really changed is now you have a lot of people out there with internet access who do their own sleuthing and investigating and have their own stories that they're out there trying to tell, and they're filing their own FOI requests and things like that. Um, it doesn't mean you just blindly follow them down whatever path they're leading you, but they find good stuff.
yeah.
I mean, they find there's a lot of trash, but there's good stuff too. And I think if you're willing to listen to people and hear them out, even if it means that you have to sit there and be like, no, that's not for me. Um, I think you can really find some gold in the kind of amateur journalists and reporters that are functioning online these days.
Yeah. I like that you're talking about scrutiny, and it's I think it freaks some people out because I've had people call and, hey, this the link is dead, or you wrote 2023 and 2024, and I missed it during the editing process, and people get a little nervous about challenging us when they think that there's something that needs to be fixed, and my response is always thank you, holy cow, like thank you for keeping a sharp eye on our work. I normally try to send them a bumper sticker or a t-shirt or something with my deepest thanks for making us better. Um, to go back to what you were saying too about, the bias piece. I mean, we have a mission, right? Like when we look at our stories through the lens of rooting out corruption, and that means that there are stories that we say no to that might be interesting, or there is a line there. We're not, for example, we don't write entertainment or dip into the food industry.
Sports.
We don't do
Yep.
sports. Yeah. And we have I don't know, if you have stories about sports corruption or food and entertainment corruption, let us know. I'm sure we'd love it. But there is, you have to put guardrails somewhere.
Mhm.
But stripping the self out of it, and I really respect our reporting team for that reason because it's good checks and balances. And when we hire people, we want them to be able to challenge appropriately and say, Mark, I see this draft. I see that there's something in here. This phrasing makes it sound like, you're inserting your opinion here. And, we strip that right out to make sure that, we want to inspire critical thinking too. And make sure that, when we do these long form pieces, you're walking away with a comprehensive understanding and also maybe another tool in your tool belt. So any piece of information from those citizen journalists or us or any news outlet, you're just a little more prepared to parse out what's true and reliable and maybe what needs another fact check and another run by an editor. Vitally important to improving your media diet.
Yeah, and I think there's a difference between bias and point of view
Mm.
when it comes to these stories, especially the longer feature pieces. Like even the one we're going to be discussing today. It's obviously coming from Ricardo Sotil's point of view, but we try to do it in such a way that it is at least factually objective and calls up, and you can do this in longer pieces, leave enough room for the nuance that people can kind of come to their own decisions. They can think that, hey, maybe this guy is, getting retaliated against because of small town politics. Or maybe he's just reading too much into this and, hey, these are these are how zoning laws work.
Right.
Uh, so it really but I like to leave, you want to leave enough room for people to make up their own mind. Because when it comes down to it, I think even as reporters, you have to admit sometimes that you don't know the whole truth. You've got bits and pieces. There's evidence that points towards something, but unless you're right there in the room when it happens, you don't know the truth. And if you are right there in the room when it happens, probably nobody's going to believe you. So it's yeah. So you do have to recognize that, like, your say is not the end all be all, just because you wrote it down. So you have to leave the room for the nuance, and you have to leave room for other people to make up their minds.
I appreciate that. It's one of the reasons that I love this job. Like I said, we could be doing other things, and there's a really important reason why we're here. I feel like every single person on this team has a unique drive and brings something to the table to, they have a service mentality as well. This is a nonprofit organization. We're not dragging ads in there. We're not trying to become multi-billionaires off of our revenue. We're trying to,
Wait, we're not.
you know what? We can
I
that
signed
should be
up. I
part of our
signed
next
up for the
strategy.
billionaire package. Yeah.
The billionaire newsroom. Yeah, that's maybe that'll be our next project is just it's donations, but they just exclusively go to long-term investments for us. That's it. Here we go. Um, I want to make sure let's shift. Let's shift. Hey, thank you. This is great. Again, it kind of stuck in my craw yesterday when I was having that conversation, and we have grown by leaps and bounds since April of 2022
That is
when
true.
we had a couple hundred people show up to our kickoff event and kind of hear our philosophy and our ideas. It was helpful, but there are a lot of people out there now who haven't been with us all the way, and we want you to understand why we do this work, and we also welcome questions on that as well. And of course, like I said, challenges. If you see something, how we can be better in any part of our business. I love getting those calls as well. So let's talk about your investigation because 66 kilos, weed, politics, and a warehouse in Suffield. Heck of a title, beautifully done, and a really spicy opening line that I don't even know if we should say on this podcast, but go read it first and foremost. But give us the 30,000-foot view here.
Sure. So this is really, it's kind of the story of Ricardo Sotil. And he is a businessman who operates out of Suffield. And if people haven't been to Suffield, it is tobacco farms. It's a lot of them. And, small town farming community. He's there. He has these kind of like two big warehouses that are I mean, they've got levels, they have spaces. I mean, you can get lost in these things. Um, and he operates three businesses out of there. He has a woodworking business. He does really kind of amazing like tables and wood carving and things like that. That I mean, he sells this stuff in Europe through the Ukraine, so he's kind of backed up right now with everything going on there. He has a landscaping business and he has a hemp CBD business. When Governor Lamont signed a law kind of, I think it was extending or legalizing, hemp for, growth and everything. That they did it at Rick Sotil's um, warehouse. So, but now Rick is sitting on 66 kilos of marijuana, and he can't take it out of the warehouse because it would then be illegal. So, and he's in a fight with the town of Suffield over this weed because he wants to become a micro cultivator, and the town is saying no and fighting him tooth and nail in court.
I just looked this up because I hadn't looked it up previously, but estimated street value of 66 kilos is somewhere between 66,000 and $450,000. So this is a significant chunk of money that is tied up now in this battle. Um, the town is it seems to be sticking by their guns though, right? I mean, they don't
Yeah,
want.
so they did their zoning commission and then their zoning board of appeals both denied his application to become a micro cultivator. Uh, he then took them to court and he won. They have since filed an appeal, and Rick's an interesting guy. He is a Cuban immigrant. Okay, he's married to a Ukrainian immigrant. He's come. He's former High like professional player. He used to head the High Union. And it's kind of interesting to me that he comes to America from Cuba, and expecting American freedom, and so I think he gets very frustrated when his ability to live freely and do the things that he wants to do on his property with his business and things like that get impeded by American small town bureaucracy and the legal system. And I think he gets frustrated. I don't blame him. To him, it's kind of a simple idea in that he's already growing hemp and extracting CBD from it, which actually to grow to process marijuana for as a microcultivator actually involves one less step in the process. So, and this is what the judge ruled on. The judge said, "You're already doing all this stuff, you're to create the CBD and the hemp." He's like, so the judge is like, "This is one less step in the process. You're already licensed and regulate, you've already received permission from the town to do this. You're already licensed to do this." And it's already part of the non-conforming use of this ancient warehouse. uh so you can do this, like it's just one less step. What's the difference, right? The town's fighting him on that. And so to make things probably more difficult on himself, he decided to jump into the first selectman's race in 2023 against the incumbent, a Republican named Colin Mall. And Colin had actually supported Rick's initial bid to be a micro cultivator. Um, but now the town is really pushing back on him, and he thinks it might be political. I mean, small town politics are absolute blood sports, um, nastier than anything I've seen at the state level. That's for sure. And so, yeah, he got in. He threw his hat in the ring to run for first selectman. Problem was he didn't actually live in town. And so what he did is he set up a air mattress in his warehouse and said, "This is home," and then filed his paperwork to run for first selectman. And that didn't go too well either.
Yeah, it sounds like this it was worked out. At least as I understand it from the investigation, it had to do literally with where his mattress was placed in the building, which sounded like it was we're really splitting hairs at the end of the day at that point. So he ended up losing. right? I don't
Yes,
want to spoil
yeah,
this.
he got
Yeah.
roundly beat. But you know, he did bring kind of an interesting philosophy, and frankly, I don't think he did all that much active campaigning. He just kind of threw his hat in the ring. But he does bring an interesting philosophy. He's kind of like a libertarian, I would guess. You know, he ran unaffiliated,
Hmm.
didn't run as, you know, Republican or Democrat. And his philosophy is really just, you know, socially liberal, fiscally conservative. You know, to him, he doesn't understand why the town's fighting him on this, you know, micro cultivator issue in court because the town's expending a bunch of money to fight him in court. You know, like he goes, "Why are you wasting taxpayer dollars?" You know, why he goes, "That's other people's money. If it was your money, you wouldn't be doing this at all." When it came to you know, Suffield was dealing with some library book issues, which we've seen pop up across Connecticut about gender pronouns. You know, Rick went to the library, got the book. He said he read it twice, didn't understand it, but still, he said, you know what? People should be able to read whatever they want. Why are you banning books? So he hops into the race. Um, so yeah, he has kind of an interesting outlook on life, and he's just an interesting guy. If you want to talk to this guy, he's got stories to tell. He's very busy. And yeah, I mean, he was, you know, having him show me around town, having him show me around the warehouse. It was fairly fascinating, I gotta say.
That's awesome. It's a great read. I mean, I will spoil just a little bit that the last header, the last section of the investigation is called I Am Thinking of Running Again. So this is likely not the last that we have heard of Mr. Sotil. And also because this case is continuing, right? Currently awaiting a court determination on the application.
Yeah, yeah. So the town wanted to appeal. They're waiting to hear if they're going to be able to move forward with that. You know, it's another issue that, you know, Rick has taken up. He said, you know, you guys never held an official vote on to whether or not to appeal this decision. And you know, he's friends with the Hornish family who had that dog incident, which we've written about. That's another thing where he's like, why don't you just settle this so we're not spending all this money? He's got a lot of views. And you know, it's interesting because when I was up there, I got to meet some other members of the Cuban immigrant population in Suffield. There's actually a fair number of Cuban immigrants there. Um, yeah, well, you figure tobacco growing, you know, kind of makes sense, but at the same time, I mean, none of the ones I met were none of the Cubans I met were tobacco growers. Some of them were like, you know, I think they were retirement specialists, and you know, obviously Rick doing what he's doing. So yeah, it seems like there's you know, kind of an interesting you know, group of Cuban people there that, you know, have probably have some really interesting viewpoints on just how we do things in America and in Connecticut. It would be kind of fascinating to speak more with them.
For sure. Yeah, Suffield has been a really interesting place these last few months. And Mark mentioned the you're talking about should this dog die was Brandon's investigation from a few weeks ago. And you know, we're recording this on Thursday. It'll be released on Friday. And I know just this morning we got a updated legal document from that as well. So expect a follow-up story with where that is headed on insideinvestigator.org. Um, Mark, this is a great piece. Obviously, we're just scratching the surface. There's a lot more in there for everyone to check out if you're reading, watching, listening to this, wherever it is across the internet. It keeps showing up in more places, which I love about this show. So, very excited about that. Do you have anything else that you want to cover? Otherwise, I think we can wrap up for the day.
No, I say, you know, just go take a look and you know, see what you do to offload $140,000 worth of weed, you know. It's worth going to the court battle, you know, and having to sleep on a cot in a woodworking warehouse.
Seriously. No one's gonna knock his go get 'em attitude. That's for darn sure.
No, no, that guy works a lot harder than I do, I can tell you that.
And we know how hard you work.
I try.
Everybody, thank you for being here, for plugging in with us, for supporting us as a nonprofit. If you are loving what we do and you want to see us continue to succeed, Please share our stories, consider becoming a donor, sign up for our free emails, which arrive in your inbox on Wednesday and Sunday mornings. And we'll be back in 2 weeks. Until then, be well, stay safe, and stay informed.